Dr. Parker A. Grant, founder of IDlance, and we have a member showcase. We're going to just ask you a bunch of questions about who you are, your background, but really, I wanted to start out with just asking you questions about IDlance. Like, what is it? What is IDlance?
Yeah, so IDlance is really an L&D agency. We take freelance talent. We have members who are freelancers. And in particular, the freelancers are folks that are interested in leaving their former life, whether they're a teacher or a professor or somebody working in corporate, and just wanting to make that leap into a new world of freelancing, whether it's part-time or full-time. But so we try to match the talent from this pool of freelancers to opportunities. So there are companies that are, they're increasingly using freelancers just because of, the variation of the market. And, so we find opportunities and try to match them. So it's kind of a win-win, we get lots of talent from all around the country. And, we have clients who are willing to, sign on with us on different projects. And we're just kind of thrilled to be able to be so-called matchmakers. So,
oh, that's great.
But yeah, that's what we do.
So if somebody joins IDlance, what can they expect?
If somebody joins IDlance,
joins IDlance, joins the community, what can they expect to see from?
Yeah, so they'll expect to see other like-minded folks in the same transition process. Now, there are some people who are still working full-time, and they're just sort of getting their feet wet, kind of, find out what it's like to be a freelancer before they make that decision, because it's a life decision. And you think about it, it's major, So when you're leaving an organization where you're getting that consistent paycheck, and then you're going into another world where that pay is going to be variable.
Yeah,
it comes at different times. So, there are some emotions that come with that transition, and being in a community allows you to express those in forms of whether it's venting or just asking questions. How do I do this? Because everybody's at a different stage, right? So those that are further along could help those that are just kind of beginning the transition. I started my career in freelancing back about 14 years ago. Prior to that, I worked in a company that was a Fortune 50 company for about 21 years. So as of this year, I've been in learning development for about 30 years total.
Wow.
So I've been in it for a while. I've seen a lot, but I also know what it feels like to go from something that seems very stable, secure, to something like what's around the corner, So it's quite a transition. But I found that the further in my freelancing career, the more safe that I felt. That security actually increased to the point where you know that you've got some client work coming in. And so if there's ever, let's say, a recession or a downturn in the market, whatever, you have that comfort of knowing that you've got income coming in. Even if you lose a client or two, so you still have some income coming in. Whereas in a full-time position, that's not always the case. Depending on where you are, sometimes companies have to make drastic cuts just because, they have to.
Right.
And, people are unfortunately victims of restructure. So anyway, but yeah, so, when somebody comes into IDlance, they can expect to communicate with others that have been through that, or if they have been in it themselves, they can help others. So
yeah, that's great.
We use Slack for that. Slack is great.
Yeah, no, absolutely. In fact, with the tldchat.us is where our Slack group is, and right before you started, I saw Freelance job posting pop up. I'm like, oh, there you go. Look at that. Yeah, I mean, it's super interesting. Now let's go back to 30 years ago when you first started into this space, which means that pretty much you weren't doing any training over the internet. You were probably, I mean, were you even using CDs and stuff back then? Or
We weren't even using PowerPoint. We
right,
had overhead slides.
right,
Those
right.
little big boxes that you put on there with a shiny projector light, big screen.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes. No, that's a long time ago.
yeah.
It's hard not to want to go back and get nostalgic about those days because I was kind of at the tail
I
end of
had
all
my
of that.
colorful markers with me. I had red, blue, green, black. I had different colors so I could
Right.
doodle on them.
So why did you get into training? What was that journey like?
Well, this is kind of a weird thing, but I actually started out as a mechanical engineer, believe it or not.
Hmm.
So prior to my L&D, I had 5 years of mechanical engineering design experience working for a jet engine company. And yeah, so I go through undergrad and grad school for mechanical engineering, and only 5 years into my career, I make a switch. Go
Wow.
figure.
Wow.
So I joke around with people that I am a fully recovered engineer.
So Parker,
So
wait, did you not like engineering or what was what
I
was the reason for
liked it.
switching?
I just didn't see that for another 30, 40 years.
Mm,
I liked it though. A lot of great problem solving skills that you get to pick up. And, so a lot of it, for all of you who are watching, the problem solving process, right, for instructional design. So think of it like where when I was an engineer, I was problem solving for parts of products where IDs can problem solve for people. So it's a lot of a similar methodology, but it's just two different worlds. But to answer your question about how did I get interested in this, I had a buddy of mine at the company where I worked. He asked me, "Hey, Parker, do you want to join me on teaching a class to high school students, juniors and seniors from the local area?"
mhm.
And I'm here in the Hartford, Connecticut area. And I said, "Yeah, well, tell me more about this." And he said, "Well, these guys are looking for some preview of what engineering is like so that they can decide whether to apply for engineering college." So um, I said, "Yeah, why not?" So my buddy Sean and I, every Wednesday night, we had a group of maybe a dozen kids from the local school. They were bused over to the company where we worked,
Mhm.
and we bring them in a conference room, let's say 5 o'clock in the afternoon, spend a
Right.
couple hours with them. We did it for several weeks in a row. And I just fell in love with this idea of training. It was just like, you see these kids, like
Mhm.
light bulbs go on.
Mhm.
They get so excited about the possibilities. And that's what got me thinking, wait a minute, I love teaching, I love training. How can I do that in the company that I'm working at? Because I've got all the benefits, we've got healthcare benefits,
Yeah.
good pay, and all that. Why leave? So I just figured I'd try to do a lateral move into another department. So I started investigating, and it's a large company of like 38,000 people. So found out they had a training department and talked to one of the instructors, and just somehow I just worked into that department through application process. From that day on, 30 years ago, okay, so it is this year, 30 years ago, that I got into training. Um, no regrets. It was the best decision ever.
Yeah.
Um, so it was really cool. That's how I started.
That's great. No, that's really amazing to hear. I love thinking about that. I mean, because recently I've been thinking about, what are the reasons that people shouldn't get into instructional design or, being learning experience designers, anything like that. But consistently, the reason why it seems like it's just inherent in people's, core that if they want to be educators, that just really, really speaks to them, because it seems like being a mechanical engineer probably would have been a lot more lucrative than being a trainer. And so you had to make that decision too, right?
oddly, I didn't have to take a pay cut.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah.
Kind of
So
surprised.
I was able to keep the pay
Uh-huh.
and then just continue to get raises from there. But I
Uh-huh.
also went up the ranks too. Uh, so after being a technical trainer, actually, I was a trainer for engineers too, which was kind of cool because uh, the company I worked for, it was a jet engine company. So I got to teach power plant engineers at major airlines from around the world how to analyze data from the cockpit in commercial aircraft. Um, and so I was able to keep the engineering side of things for a while, but I also was able to learn instructional design of the job. I also did some development work, which
Mhm.
started out with PowerPoint,
Yeah.
and then we got into the CBT world, right? Computer-based training, where we got to publish stuff on CDs.
Mhm.
And then, eventually that went to WBT, if you
Mhm.
remember that acronym.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
then, things evolved from there to e-learning over
Yep.
time. But yeah, so I went up to the ranks. I became a training manager. Prior to that, though, I was able to travel the world to different countries to, teach at different airlines, which is really kind of a cool experience in itself to be able to, you know, learn what it's like to teach in different cultures,
Right.
you know, certain things that you do or you don't do in the classroom. And so I became a training manager and eventually became a learning development manager overseeing a division of 7,000 people. So I was able to really get a broad spectrum of experiences in the corporate world. Um, that said, that probably enabled me to work with corporate clients easier because corporate is corporate. I don't know if any of you viewers out there know what I mean by that, but it's it's a culture thing. You have to kind of how to communicate and talk. Uh, I took, and here I am, um,
Wow.
running
And so
Ivylance.
can you go into like when did you decide to do the freelancing things? It sounded like you had a really it sounded like it was really successful in your corporate life, and but where when did the freelancing stuff begin?
Yeah, the freelancing didn't happen right away. I wanted
Mhm.
to have a business. I was sort of having that entrepreneurial itch. Like there was so much, stuff going on in corporate. It's just, a lot of BS, basically what it is. And you get tired of people not being themselves. See, I had lunch buddies that I knew back in the late 80s,
Mhm.
and I saw them progress through the company, and they became individuals who try to be other than themselves. You kind of know the true personalities, but they put on a different front, and just a
Mhm.
lot of politics going on. And I'm trying to think, is this something how I really want to spend my life? Could I just be in a role where I could just be me? You know, so um, and I thought for several years, how do I get on my own? How do I start a business? What can I do as an entrepreneur? Um, ID wasn't one of the things I wanted to do. It was I wanted to get into like coming up with software that was better for change management in an organization. It's like the OD stuff, organizational development, change management. I got into facilitation, so helping facilitate meetings, root cause analysis sessions, all of that stuff. And I thought, that would command a good price. I can make a good living on that. But the truth was, it was hard, really, really hard to do that. And I'm thinking, okay, what can I do that will at least, bring in a little bit more money? Um, and I thought about instructional design because I saw a lot of people doing that. And I thought, well, okay, maybe not the thing that I want to do, but I'll try it. So I got into it, and And I started with a small project with a small company, probably about a half hour from me. And it happened to be, their client happened to be the corporation that I left. So that was a nice, I guess, entry into ID work is, something that I'm very familiar with, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, so when I started doing that, then when I was partway through the first project, I got offered another project. Oh, we have this other one. So they liked my work, right? So they offered another one, ready to start as soon as I finish this one. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, this is not too bad. I think I can keep doing this. So, I started, poking around with other people that I knew in my network, say, hey, yeah, I'm Parker Grant. I can do instructional design work, and I'm doing something for this company right here. Just let me know if you need some help.
Yeah.
So just little by little, just bring it in, and I found that okay, this is the place. So
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. And so how long have you been just doing this freelance stuff?
yeah, so 2007, 2008, I think when I started that.
Wow.
So I still do freelance work, even though I'm a co-founder of IDlance with Andrea McAnini. I still do some freelance work. I probably try to spend maybe 20 to 40% of my time doing some of that. I
Mhm.
just like to get my hands dirty and stuff like that.
Sure.
Just kind of keep up to date with what's going on,
Mhm.
and the remainder of my time try to help grow IDlance. So uh, definitely a full plate.
No, yeah, absolutely. And so when did IDLance start?
So we started the business as an entity in February of 2020. So just a little over 2 years.
Mhm.
Um, Andrea and I met on a project a few months prior to that. And so we hit it off with the combination of talents between Andrea and mine. So we're like complementary talents, which made it great. So, between her network and my network, we were able to put together a curriculum to help people make that transition to freelancing. And so that was how we started. We're just to kind of get a membership fee out there to get people to learn how to make that bold leap to freelancing.
Yeah.
But it just grew, it morphed over time. So now we're really kind of like an agency. So we've
Yeah.
landed some big contracts. This year alone, we're poised to grow about 700% over
Mhm.
last year's.
Mhm. Mhm.
So
That's
it's
amazing.
doing really well. Yeah.
So why,
But yeah,
Parker? Why did you start IDLance?
well, it was one of those where I don't know, maybe it was just a feeling that like I just kind of want to pay back, right? I've
Mm.
been in this so long,
Mhm.
30 years. It's like you get to a phase in life where you think, okay, this is time to pay back. Just give others a chance, especially the younger ones who are making that decision early in their life. You know, um, they don't have to work 20 years, 30 years in a corporation before they have to go on as a consultant.
Yeah.
They could start right from college if they want.
Mhm.
So, but because I've seen a lot in many different aspects of L&D, I felt very comfortable with being able to, put together a curriculum and help others to, make that move.
Wow. Okay, so as far as your instructional design career and just being a trainer, sort of looking back, is there anything that you know now that you wish you could have told yourself right when you started?
Oh, as a trainer, anything in particular?
As a
Uh,
trainer. And then I'd also ask that about you being a founder of IDlance. If you can go back to 2020 and ask and tell yourself something, what would that be? So both questions.
yeah, yeah. No, that's a really, really thought-provoking question. If I were to travel back in time and meet my younger self, what would I say?
Right.
Uh, Start ID work faster.
Yeah.
I was exploring in the beginning. I was kind of hemming and hawing, trying to figure out, okay, should I do facilitation work? Should I do change management? Should I go for the high intellect think tank kind of stuff, or just go for like creative work, and just try, doing some basic instructional design. So if I were to go back, I would say, Parker, no, just jump right into ID. There's a lot of businesses out there that are looking for this help. Don't waste your time. There's a market for that. And also, I would also say this too. Find out who you are as a person, what you love to do and what you're good at. Because when you think about the spectrum of L&D, it is huge, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you think about all the aspects of learning development, ranging from, just the technology of LMS alone. I mean, there are hundreds and hundreds of learning management systems out there, and you need people who administrate that kind of thing.
Yeah.
You have technical writers who specialize in technical writing. You have those who are really good at explainer videos using Beyond or whatever. You have those who are a natural trainer in the classroom because of their personality, and their ability to engage students. And so there's a whole range of opportunities in L&D. There's so much there that you would want to take some time up front to say, okay, what is it in L&D that I really, really want to do? Do I want to get into the writing aspects, or do I want to get into some more of that creative stuff like making videos, animations, or even custom graphics for e-learning backgrounds, whatever, or just writing, code. So, if you can just say, this is what I love to do, this is what I'm really good at, kind of narrow in that, and then just go for it. YOLO, right? You only live once. Just go for it.
Parker, that is like such important, just great advice to be able to tell people that, because I don't think I've been in this space, only half as long as you've been, which is still a long time, 15 years. But then I don't know how many times I've had entry-level instructional designers say things that they're really frustrated because they can't figure out storyline. And it's like, well, you don't have to know storyline to be an instructional designer. There are just so many different pockets to this space that you can jump in. I know folks that specifically work in Word as instructional designers and are just, writers, and so you don't have to know all of this stuff to be a successful L&D professional. You can actually pick what you're good at. And yeah. And do you get to tell people this, in your community in IDlance? Is that something that I
try to share once in a while, those tips. I've had a few members of IDlance private message me in Slack. Say, hey, Parker, what do you think? Should I do this? Just getting some guidance, and let's spend a little bit of time. Sometimes we'll hop on a Zoom call and just go through some tweaks. I love doing that stuff. It's so satisfying to know that you can help make a difference in the trajectory of that person's life. It's a life decision, right? So, I know some, freelancers, they do it for a while, but they really get nervous and they revert back to full-time. That sense of security, I need to get back to a full-time job. I don't know if I can take it, which is fine. You don't feel like this is the right time. You go back to the full-time job. But, sometimes, it's just a little encouragement, a little tweak in the direction can really help set that person off to a really prosperous path. So,
yeah. Okay. So now how about as a founder, as a co-founder of IDlance? It's been a couple of years now. Anything now that you would change?
Yeah, I think I'm learning new platforms that I wish I had started out with. Um, when Andrea and I began, so we started writing curriculum on Word documents, and actually I think we use OneNote. So we're just collecting all this content, we're putting stuff together, and we were formulating the curriculum, and we eventually put it into Word. But then we were trying to figure out, all right, how do we deliver this so that people would just pay a membership fee and then join and get the curriculum. And you've heard of LearnDash, right?
Mhm,
It's a WordPress platform.
mhm.
So, being a startup, we were thinking, okay, we have to keep our costs down. So we don't want to put a whole bucket load of money into this and keep our costs down. So we started out with WordPress and the LearnDash plugin. So we're all excited. This is going to be really, really cool. I don't know how many out there watching thinking, are you nuts? Because if you are saying that, you're right. WordPress is horrible when it comes to using plugin, because what happens, like we put in we put in LearnDash, and LearnDash has other elements like social. What is it called? The Buddy Press, which is
Yeah, Buddy
another
Press.
social
Yeah,
community piece.
yeah.
So you put that in, and then you put in some other plugins. Pretty soon you have like 10 or 12 different plugins, and that's just a recipe for nuclear war. I mean,
Right.
it is like we basically had our site shut down because everything was not working. Because every
Yeah.
time they had updates to plugin, it would just blow up the system. So Andrea and I, we luckily we made a transition to a different system, and that was Thinkific, and so that's what we're running off right now, which is stable, which is a good thing. But we're finding that there are some limitations with that, and so we are looking at another platform, for the next few months that will help take it to another level, which includes all the marketing aspects of it. So it's really like big. So that is going to be this year.
Yeah. It's gosh, I can't even tell you. This is almost feels like it could be a whole different broadcast, but I've been through all that.
Yeah.
WordPress, terrible. Like and I've built like literally probably 100 WordPress sites. But when I started this with TLDC, it was like, no thanks. This is
Yeah.
not working. The smallest thing would just crash everything and all that. Not that WordPress for like just a static site, that if you have a restaurant or something, works great, but if you're going to add LearnDash as a plugin, you better be ready for well, you probably need to hire a couple people to just keep an eye on it every
Oh, yeah.
day.
We had to hire a WordPress specialist.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, just one additional plugin would change the fonts or something on your
Mhm.
homepage. It
Yeah.
had nothing to do with each other. It
Yeah.
was like, how could that happen? Anyway,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
No, it's true. Like Farhan is saying, so glad to hear I'm not the only one who abandoned WordPress. I moved over to Webflow, which is a no-code
yeah,
system that I absolutely love. Webflow is so great. I never have to worry about anything. Yeah, I have to pay a little bit more, but
yeah.
it's
Webflow's
perfect.
nice.
I don't know, Parker. I could probably like chat with you and Andrea about this stuff some other time, about lessons
Yeah,
learned about all this stuff, because it's you just want something stable that it doesn't keep you up at night, and WordPress is not it. It's just it's a real mess.
yeah.
Wow, the time has just flown by. Let me pull up a couple more questions here that what is something that is a real challenge for you that you do?
What's a real challenge for me in what I do? It's probably saying no.
Yeah.
Andrea and I both have that same problem. We don't want to say no, but we are increasingly getting more stuff to do, more opportunities, and it's hard to say no. But what we try to do though is try to find ways to get that support to help that client or whoever, and that's that's the benefit of working with a great community like IDlance, is having that network.
Yeah.
But it is so hard to say no. I mean, there are a couple of instances where you have to say no.
Right.
And you don't like working with that person.
And for you, like for what you do now, how do you stay on top of your own professional development?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think through the pandemic, I think, we had the opportunity to kind of participate in a lot of webinars, or at least, even just going through the LinkedIn feeds. People put some really good things out there. You click on the links, and they're like short little bits of wisdom or tips, which I think, in LinkedIn alone, the last couple of years, it's just blossomed with opportunities for professional development. I mean, we've got some really great talent out there. People putting out some, great infographics, videos, storyline samples, things like that. So that's a good way to do it. Now, I personally would like to get back into going to conferences, probably starting this fall and into next year. Now that we're emerging from the pandemic, as people have, I guess, are feeling safer and they're getting out there, to participate. So I look forward to that.
Yeah. No, that's good. Excellent. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm still trying to consider whether or not I'm going to throw a live event next year, because I've done 3 so far for TLDC. But
Cool.
yeah, it's still a little risky, and I'm not trying to produce any big ones. I just like to keep them on the smaller side, but it's still I don't want to make that choice of having to invite people out to a risky environment. So I'm kind of risk averse in that way. So last question, if you weren't doing instructional design, IDlance, any of that stuff, anywhere in L&D, what would you be doing instead?
If I was doing instructional design,
not doing it. If you weren't an L&D professional, what do you think? What would you be?
If I wasn't, probably, I mean, I started out as mechanical engineer. I probably would revert to that. Or stay with that. Do you do anything now that's related to engineering on the side, like hobbies or anything like that? No time. No, but in a different way, yes, I will take that back. One of my clients that I'm working with now manufactures circuits. They do silicon chips and things like that, and I work with a lot of electrical engineers. So even though I'm not an EE, I'm an ME. It's same kind of shop talk.
Okay.
So
nice.
It's very familiar territory.
Yeah. Okay. Very cool.
Yeah, and I can still, look at their diagrams and their technical material, and at least sound somewhat intelligent about it.
Parker, I love talking to you. I'm so glad that, I want to thank you too. I forgot to thank you for helping sponsor that e-learning tool summit that we did
Our
last
pleasure.
month.
Yeah.
That was really kind of you to help support that. And I can tell you, as far as like L&D is concerned, you're definitely, you and Andrea are like some of the good guys in this space. And it's a pleasure to be able to talk to you and work with you. And if you ever have any questions, anything at all, like especially on the community side of things, just send me an email. I have gone through all that stuff. And that's kind of my background. Is I have always been the person that played with toys, back when I was working at the guild and all that stuff. That was always the one that was like,
I think you and I will be talking a lot.
Yeah, let me know. I'm happy. I'm always finding new stuff too. So, just keep in touch, and thank you so much for supporting TLDC with your membership. And you guys have anything coming up for IDlance that people should know about?
Well, we do have something big coming later this year. We won't announce it yet, but it's going to be a little bit of a game changer. So we're excited about that. I hate to leave it as a teaser, but I have to leave it as a teaser. Sorry.
That works. Everyone
But
can just
it's
IDlance.com, right?
IDlance.com. Yeah.
Yeah. And then everybody, June 23rd and 24th, we're having the Accessible and Inclusive Design Conference that we're hosting. I don't have the landing page up yet, but keep an eye on that. It's free, and we're going to have 2 days worth of sessions talking about accessible and inclusive design. Super important. And last year we had over, I think, 1,200 registrants for that one. So this year it'll be big too. And it's just so valuable to know, and great for our industry if we all can build inclusivity into what we do. And with that, I'm going to wrap it up. Thanks again, Parker. Good luck with IDlance.
Yeah, really appreciate the time.
Absolutely. All right. Bye, everybody. Thanks a lot.